Hello, and welcome to Doctor Who 50 Years Ago, the show that looks back to the episode that aired in 1967 and looks at what's different between then and now. This week, the Underwater Menace Episode 1 from the talents of Jeffrey Orme. I'm Ben.
I am Luke.
And I'm Nick.
And here we are, and here we go into the news from 1967. On Sunday, January the 8th, 1967, Operation Cedar Falls occurred to drive the Viet Cong out of the Iron Triangle, which was in South Vietnam's Binh Duong province. Unfortunately, 30,000 troops missed the Viet Cong force, who escaped very easily, but they raised the 40 square mile target, and the villagers that entailed it anyway.
Classic American presence in Vietnam, completely decimating a whole area, going way over the top of the force that was required.
Yeah, this was a village of 3,500 who were casually rounded up, evacuated, and then their village was razed.
And the Americans wondered why they were hated. This is why they were losing the hearts and minds of the Vietnamese.
On Monday the 9th of January, the warning that all those who have opposed Chairman Mao and are said to have sabotaged the Cultural Revolution and production of it are to be arrested and punished. This was a warning on the radios of China. It goes very well. A few days later, Zhou Enlai was demoted for promoting the capitalist cause and things like that.
So, how much murder was there before this?
A bit.
A fair amount. But
This was just murder on a publicised scale.
This is murder. This is like murder upon murder upon murder. He's out Stalining Stalin.
Yeah,
basically.
public humiliation, show trials, and then they're executed. On Thursday the 12th of January, following his death from cancer, Professor James Bedford became the first person to be cryogenically preserved with the intent of future resuscitation. No, it wasn't Walt Disney. He used an offer by the Life Extension Society, who didn't charge him for the privilege.
I wonder how controversial that was at the time, because quite recently there was a case of a teenage girl who died,
yes.
and she's preserved, I think, in Michigan in America, but they'd had to pay money for it.
Her wishes, yeah. This one was the first one, so an experiment in some cases.
Yeah.
He was pretty much donating his body to science, but in a new way.
Yeah, I just wonder if there was any controversy back then. I don't know, but just because that was controversial. But I suppose if you didn't have to pay money, I think that was the main reason people were getting up in arms about it, was the fact that this family had to pay out something like £10,000, £30,000, something like that.
Yeah.
I can see that Bedford was injected with some sort of compound called dimethyl sulfoxide, and was once thought to be good, but it meant that his brain would wither and die.
Okay.
It might protect some of his cells, possibly.
His body's still around.
But if he was revived, if we had the technology to revive him, he'd literally be brain
Vegetable.
dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well,
Sorry, James. Sorry. And finally, on Saturday the 14th of January, the discovery of pre-human fossils in Kenya was announced. This was evidence of the earliest known ancestor of Homo sapiens, dating back around 20 million years. So there's an archaeological breakthrough for you.
This is a news story that I think is very, very relevant to the episode we'll be discussing, because there's a lot of religious stuff going on in this episode.
Ah, yes.
There's a lot of, aren't these cults a bit weird and stupid? And you can see that we're starting to reject the Christian ideals a bit more.
yeah, but Western civilization is embracing rationalism and evidence as opposed to faith and religion.
In all the hippie circles, quite wonderfully, you have this embrace of Eastern religions, which...
Especially the spiritual aspect of it. People don't necessarily believe in gods, but they start to believe in a sort of strange spiritual kind of...
I mean, that stems back to the First World War, but...
But again, it's an increasing trend that increases spiritualism.
It's again part of the far-out culture of the 60s.
Mm.
But Dogma is rejected completely as this very strange antique.
I think it's the authority, isn't it? Top-down authority, people don't like that. That's what they're rejecting, I think, the main thing. Especially the hippies, anyway.
Yes.
So that was an exploration of the past. We've dealt with the present with China and Vietnam, and we've dealt with the future in the form of cryogenic preservation. That was the news. And now we shall get on to the Underwater Menace, Episode 1. Or rather, The Menace of the Caves, Episode 1. It's a slow opener, and it's not helped by the fact that it's very visual from an episode that is lost. It takes its time, this one.
I was wishing that we had it because I reckon the visuals, the stills look decent, so I reckon it would have been quite atmospheric. The sets look quite good in this, don't they? So it's a shame we can't see it, but thankfully I think at least we have episode 3. So it was just the same beach that they did the smugglers on. It's just interesting that once again they go to a beach.
Yeah, it's partly confusing as well because it's directed by the same person who did The Smugglers, Julia Smith.
Maybe it is.
So it could be the same beach. Yeah, she had extensive knowledge of Cornwall, which is why she eventually went for The Smugglers and not the Highlanders.
It is one of the most mad stories I've ever seen in anything.
Yes,
not just Doctor Who.
Really?
It is quite mad.
It's pretty nuts. Yeah.
The story, isn't it?
Thing is about this one is that this is the only serial in this season which is not written by someone who has done another episode. If you look through them, we know all the writers quite well, except Jeffrey Orme. So me and Nick did a little archaeological expedition to his episode of The Avengers called Man in the Mirror, and it's incredibly standard. And it's not very mad. So it's a very... But what we did find is that throughout Jeffrey Orme's very extensive feature film history, he went through quite a lot of genres. He started off with comedies, then he did dramas, and did some crime stuff. So he's very versatile. It's just... This is just another step in the road for him.
I guess I can only think... He must have thought, oh, Doctor Who, that's a bit of a crazy show, and then came up with the maddest idea he had, and went with it.
He just had a very different idea of what science fiction was supposed to be.
Yeah. And so he went with that mad idea.
Yeah, we can tell in episode 1.
But, from that Avengers episode, we see that this starts similarly slowly.
Let's begin this slow burn. We open in the TARDIS, where Jamie gawps at the concept of space and time travel while the Doctor does his thing.
Thing I liked this scene. I think Jamie's introduction to the TARDIS is a lot better than Ben and Polly's.
Yes.
It is significantly better, I think.
Ben and Polly's took about 30 seconds.
But what I mean
this takes a minute, so that's not bad.
It's just... it seems genuine. Jamie's shock and surprise is genuine, but then how they explain it to him is in a good way, but it isn't in a way that the audience finds annoying. They doesn't feel like they're going through the motions like they did with Ben and Polly, which that was just, oh look, it's the TARDIS. Oh right, we get it now. Suddenly, Doctor, because we need to understand it. It feels like there's chemistry in this scene. The companions get on with the Doctor. They're all bantering a bit, whilst the smugglers. The scene with Hartnell and Ben and Polly just feels so unnatural.
Yes, yeah. We certainly got a more human rapport now that we have Troughton in the mix.
And it's needed because unfortunately, due to Jamie coming in last minute, he hasn't got a lot of a character in this because he doesn't have a lot to do. But so you need this scene to establish Jamie, the new character.
Yeah.
And instantly he's more likeable than the other 2.
Yes.
They have landed on a beach near a cave, Again, and we've already said it's vaguely related to smugglers. It's probably the same place. We'll find out soon enough. And they go exploring. It's an extinct volcano. Yippee.
Oh, how did Ben know that this was an extinct volcano? He's the one who says it, not the Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, you're right.
That's odd. That's a character being given lines
Yeah.
to make him sound intelligent when it doesn't make sense.
How would Ben know what an extinct volcano looks like? I mean, it would look like just like a mountain, but how would he know? This bit does do a fairly decent job of actually distributing the lines between Ben and Jamie, because you do get the sense that they're both there and they're not utterly redundant.
Yeah.
One of them is a bit redundant, but not to the point that you're thinking, oh, this is terrible.
Through the usual split-up techniques, Polly ends up being captured in some caves. The Doctor becomes a geologist, because why not? And then eventually they're all captured at exactly the same point in time. Wonderful them. And they're lured into a high-speed lift, which goes down to the lost city of Atlantis. Of course it does. It's the beginning of some mad concepts, which put forth to a fairly hair-raising episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's something interesting I noticed. I don't remember what the disease he said was. And
Oh,
I don't
Submariners. Touch of the Submariners was what Ben calls it.
Right.
Something disease, yeah.
Yeah, I wrote Cajun's disease because I couldn't remember what it was, but that was vaguely what it was.
As in Cajun cooking?
Yes.
Oh. No.
No, it wasn't that.
It's not that, but it's close.
I didn't think it was chicken disease.
Or contagion disease, no. But yeah, obviously.
But this starts something quite interesting in this episode. The Doctor hurriedly explains the scientific thing which is going to happen to them
As it happens.
just before it happens. The Doctor is really played up through this episode as very much a scientist. He knows what's going on. He's the pilot of the ship.
He knows of people.
He knows of people. And I think it's really interesting because we don't really see the Doctor as a scientist much.
It's to compare him to Zaroff, isn't it? I suppose to make like the Doctor is using science for good. The Zaroff is using science for evil.
In his fully entrenched normal ways, as we see, it's more connected to traditional views like the Cold War and stuff like that.
But what really kicks this off is what I think of at this moment in time of a Sherlock Holmes Doctor, where in Power of the Daleks and in this serial, he's donning disguises, he's trying to work things out, he's playing people off against each other, and he's got this very methodical scientific approach. And I think that's a great character. It's what I love in the Second Doctor and the Doctor generally. And he has that. He's sort of a funny Sherlock Holmes, really.
And this is the gradual evolution of it.
Yes.
So it's very perfect to look at it how it worked out 50 years ago. Excellent. You heard it here first, folks. They all fall unconscious to this disease, which is difficult to learn about, and they wake up in a laboratory where they discover through properly useful place calendar that the year is 1970, much to Jamie's and the viewer's consternation.
Well, it's quite cute how they find out. It's like, oh well, there's the 1968
Mexico Olympics.
Yeah, they just all right.
Excellent.
Then. Yeah, it's sometime after 1968, presumably. It's that whole thing they keep bringing up. Oh, we're from 1966 specifically. They always say that, don't they?
Yes.
They're like, oh, and it's 1986 in the 10th Planet. They're like, oh wow, it's all so different. 20 years in the future. They're like, baffled by it.
Yeah, in all of these serials, we've got a bit of continuity. Here, we've had a reference to the Daleks at the beginning, and Polly says, "Maybe we're in Cornwall." I was right about that last time.
It is kind of weird that they just keep referring back to earlier stuff in the season.
Anything to ground the characters in basis with the audience, I guess. To show that there is continuity from one Doctor to the next.
Yeah.
The story's still playing out.
Yeah, I guess it does lend this idea that a new companion is more, in some ways, more important than when a new Doctor comes along.
Absolutely.
Enter an Atlantean who refuses to comprehend Polly's attempts at foreign languages.
You speak foreign.
Oh yeah, this screws up the whole TARDIS translates thing.
Especially then Jamie, who's given a few lines to show he's actually useful, uses Gallic. But that doesn't end well. In the end, they're all herded into an underground lair, where the Doctor promptly steals all the food. It's usually hats, and that sets up that plot point. They're visited by the High Priest of the Atlanteans, whose name is Lolan, which you won't find out for 2 episodes. They were foretold to have arrived to be sacrifices at a ceremony to their great god Amdo, which is definitely not a fish. Goddess. Enter gender politics here. Eventually, in protesting that he doesn't want to be sacrificed, the Doctor goes to the highest authority and plucks a random name out of a hat. Oh yeah, he knows of Professor Zaroff, the great scientist.
He's like...
I know he's here.
Yeah, he's figured it out from, what, he ate plankton earlier or something, he said?
I deduce it's to do with him.
Yeah, he's like, all this kind of like aquaculture. He didn't say that word, but it just means like food, like fishing, basically.
Yes.
He deduces from that. Clearly, it must be Zaroff because he was the guy in that, like the leading man in that field.
This is the first instance of the cult in this episode. And what's interesting about this cult is we know nothing about the goddess Amdo. At no point during this serial do we learn any of their beliefs or ideas. They are entirely dogma.
It's complete rhetoric, yeah.
Indeed. And it's interesting because they look so silly and stupid. They're obviously meant to be laughed at. They're just stupid. This scientist is also stupid.
In the Temple of Amdo, the priest does his thing, ready to sacrifice all of the companions and the Doctor to sharks. Luckily, though, the Doctor has managed to send a message of him having a vital secret, signed Dr. W. Let's not get into that discussion. It gets to Zaroff and his assistant Damon, and he stops the sacrifice, although it takes him quite a while, like 3 minutes, whilst he's slowly drawn towards some sharks, which is definitely not stock footage. So, Zaroff, he's a mad scientist who looks after fish and has a pet octopus. He's also my next door neighbour. He apparently died 20 years ago in a Cold War kidnapping, which is mad. East versus West. The fact that they actually generally refer to it in the episode is quite nuts.
In 1950?
Yeah, but this must have happened at the height of the Cold War. I mean, he's obviously German. So this could have been post-Berlin blockade.
Okay.
Makes sense.
That kind of thing, yeah, height of the Cold War. East Germany at that time was rebuilding, reconstructing, and he's obviously from East Germany.
I like the fact that they don't put blame on either side. He says
East versus West, yeah.
But he says East blames West, West blames East. He doesn't say either one was particularly at fault.
And I really liked Feed You to My Pet Octopus.
Yes.
Awesome. And he lets the Doctor live because he likes people with a sense of humour. And
his sense of humour.
And I quite like... Well, I'm going to co-conspiracy theory here. But knowing how Orm was a comedy writer and then did a bit of drama, I'm going to say this is a bit like he's saying, you can give this a pass if you have that sense of humour. If you realise this is supposed to be a bit stupid, as opposed to the regular Doctor Who series. So
he's challenging scientist Jerry Davis to say, hi, science can be a bit stupid sometimes, except my script. And he's going, huh?
I suppose this must have been intentionally funny. The handbook that comes with the actual DVD states it as much. It basically says, this is Doctor Who if it were a cartoon.
So, yeah, everybody is saved from the sharks. The Doctor reveals his bluff that he doesn't have any vital secret, and then instantly produces another bluff. I'm a genius, I'll help you out. And Zaroff takes him away. The companions are taken away also, but they're going to go and give service to the community, and that's a quote. much to Ben's disgust, which is an interesting portrayal of the youth not wanting to do what the higher-ups say, anti-authority. Ben and Jamie are sent to the mines, whilst Polly is eventually taken away to become a fish person. A food-producing farmer with plastic gills.
Yeah. Oh, but it's like... This episode's been so kind of like light-hearted or like silly, and then you get this kind of like genuine body horror bit at the end, which is a bit tonally out of place.
And, how it's revealed gradually is like, oh yes, we've got these fish people who farm stuff under the sea and give food to starving
initially
people.
you think it's
and Polly
nice.
goes, oh yeah, that's nice, like the viewer would do. And then they go, but we put plastic gills on you, ha 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 ha, air zone solution.
Yeah, it's very...
Oh, God!
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. We found another connection that you did not expect.
No!
Oh, dear. Yeah, and so like the viewer, like the youth, they go, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Wait, it's going to happen to me? Oh, no, thanks.
Yeah.
That's very individualistic.
As I said, this is very body horror. This is genuinely one of the creepiest things I think I've seen in Doctor Who. The idea of becoming a fish person sounds pretty horrific.
The 10th Planet Cybermen, they have that obscenity about them, with their open mouths and their distorted speech. When we eventually see these fish people in Part 3, they look so... it's so difficult to think they were once human. But it's stated so much that they are human that it gets really scary, I think. Like, the way they can barely talk, but they can understand, and the way their eyes are so horrible. It's really creepy.
So this is quite out of place tonally,
it's
really.
the solution to a problem, but it's taken to such an extreme, such an endpoint. Destroy all emotions, corrupt the entire human figure by putting gills on them and making them fish.
It's just tonally speaking, it is out of place with everything else in the serial, because...
Yeah,
this is nuts.
It would be nice if that weren't the body horror thing, I think.
Although, I'll point out, I doubt in the script they looked so horrible. I think in the script they had, like, a fin on their head and, like, just sort of lines on their cheeks, and they would put their thumbs up and things like that.
Oh, like those fish people from The Chase.
Oh, God. The Iridians.
Yeah.
Who live on a planet of desert.
Yeah, I know. Fish people on a desert planet.
Yes.
That occurs in The Chase.
Oh, that's brilliant. But yeah, I think they wouldn't look so horrible. You're not going to turn me into a fish.
No, says Polly. The Doctor learns that he's in Atlantis. Zaroff was accepted into this highly religious community because he's promised to lift Atlantis to the surface, thereby fulfilling their religious prophecies, their mad religious prophecies, as Geoffrey Orme says. The Doctor is helped by Ara, an Atlantean, who tells him Polly's going to become a fish, and he uses her to help Polly, who is going to become a fish, and that's the cliffhanger.
What's good about how Zaroff is able to manipulate people via their own religiousness is that it shows that science is above that sort of thing. He can see past it. And he's the only person in the entire society who doesn't buy into the whole Amdo thing. And maybe it's because it's an outsider, but I'm betting it's because he's a scientist. I imagine that's what it's supposed to be.
So it's boiling down rationality versus irrationality, that argument.
Exactly.
Okay. And so that's episode 1 of The Underwater Menace. It's got a lot of crazy things, but does it still hold up 50 years later, gentlemen?
I really liked it. I thought it was great.
It's a slow opener, but the things that it's got in there, once you actually get to them, are quite rich.
Yeah.
If anything, I forgot to say that once it finally actually gets down to Atlantis, it sort of rushes itself. It's a bit slow whilst up top on the surface, but then once you get down to Atlantis, it's, oh, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening.
It's fast-paced, exciting, and fun.
I think most people in the 60s would have hated it, apart from the kids. The kids would have liked it, because it's like mad and it's fast, whatever.
I wonder what the audience research report will say.
But the adults, I reckon, really wouldn't have liked it. They would have thought it would nonsense.
And that's why they had the Foresight saga on from last week.
But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I mean, it's still not It was all right. I mean, I think I'd probably give it a 6. It's enjoyable, but it's not like that good, you know.
Yeah, 6s and 7s.
I'll point out that I like this more because I had the captions. Honestly, I just really enjoyed this one. I'd give it an 8.
Oh, okay.
I think that the serial drops off after this, but I really, really like this one. It had the Doctor doing what I liked the Doctor doing, and I liked the cult, who I thought were weird and cool, and the fish people were fun. So, yeah, love this one.
Those are all the fun things that was shown on Doctor Who 50 years ago. Thank you very much for watching. You can find us on Blogspot, which redirects to iTunes, where you can comment and rate us. We're also on Facebook and YouTube, where you can like, comment and subscribe, and other internety things, including Google Plus, if you dare. We shall be back next week to fear the operation in episode 2 of The Underwater Menace. I've been Ben.
I've been Luke.
And I've been Nick.
Thank you, and goodbye.